And welcome to a episode of Knights of the Round Table, Coffee with Nancy. So Nancy O'Brien Simpson is here again, and we're going to discuss the insurrection. What do you want to call it, Nancy?
Riot, insurrection, protest, Magna March, Trump's revenge.
All apply.
The shutting down of the right once and for all.
Yeah, it's almost like if you really wanted to put the nail in the coffin for Trump, that was a decisive blow. If you think about the way the media has spun it and taken it, like obviously, pretty disgraceful, an awful turn of events. But at the same time, they're milking it for all it's worth.
And this was the greatest gift that could have been given to the Democrats and the mainstream media in the history of the earth. What a present, what a gift. Because of that insurrection, President Trump was deplatformed. Hundreds of alt-right, right, conservative voices were banned from Twitter, taken off Facebook, taken off platform after platform. Parler went away altogether. I mean, it's just been amazing what that insurrection has accomplished. And the interesting thing about it is it doesn't really matter. People like Abby Martin are saying it might have been an inside job, and we all know why that would be beneficial. If it could have been orchestrated by the left, then the left could feign shock. Oh my God! Look what they've done! Oh my God, they almost killed us. We were cowering in our offices. Democracy has been slashed for good. Oh, we have to stop them. We have to deplatform them. Oh my God. You can see inside job, brilliant. If they did that, it was brilliant. It could have been Antifa, and just that's who they are. That's what they like to do. They come in, they start this very violent aspect of what otherwise had been a very patriotic, very peaceful protest, peaceful Magna March. Could have been Antifa, but if it was Antifa and if they started it 100%, some of those patriots went right with them and backed them up. Doesn't really matter who started it. Could have been the 3%ers, could have been the Proud Boys. It doesn't really matter where the violence stemmed from. Doesn't even matter who let them in, because we'll never know. What matters now is the ramifications of it. And I was reading the New York Times, I was reading Washington Post, BBC, and they had articles where historians were talking about the lens through which the Trump presidency will be judged by historians, not by patriots, magnas, conservatives, Republicans, but by the mainstream academics and the pundits and the chattering class. How will they now define Trump? And every one of them said he will be defined through the lens of this insurrection or this riot, that 4 years of his jabbing at the mainstream media, calling them liars, calling the election a fraud, fomenting the crowds, whipping up the crowds. All of that was a crescendo to the culmination, the final act, the magnificence of utter chaos, the insurrection, the storming of the Citadel, the Capitol, that lens of foment, that lens of division, that lens of trying to destroy the narrative of the mainstream media, that will be his legacy. But as you pointed out, it will not be the legacy of the 75 million people who voted for him. And of those 75 million, probably 45 million loved him, would have died for him, would have followed him anywhere. It won't be their narrative, but their narrative will not be heard. It will not be heard.
It's interesting, Nancy. So one thing that the Trump presidency has highlighted is the true bias of the media. Whether you call them fake news or whatever side you're on, it's quite apparent in everything that's reported. There's this enormous bias. And the bias has spread from media to the technology companies. And I think it just shows the greater importance for independent journalism and the need for independent technology outlets like Parler, right? There needs to be some balance to this, because right now I think the left or the Democrats seem to have outsmarted their rivals.
They have 100%. They've outsmarted, they've outspent, and historically and worldwide, they are the ones that are defining the narrative. The right is not defining the narrative. The interesting thing about the brilliance of the left is the picture that they have painted of those 75 million deplorables. They have Rudy Giuliani with the oil running down his face. They have Lynn Wood saying that Pence should be executed. They have Sidney Powell, and they have aligned her with QAnon. They have Mr. Pello talking to Trump about martial law. The left has painted Trumpsters as clowns, as uneducated NASCAR people, as just people who are basically ridiculous and who, here's the bottom line. Not only are they ridiculous, but these 75 million people have no place in the American political picture. They have no place. They don't fit. They are incapable of democracy. They're authoritarian. They are racist. They are misogynistic. They are homophobic. They are alt-right. Any pejorative term that can be put on these people needs to be put there and deserves to be put there. And if their free speech needs to go away for the good of the country to be rid of this riffraff, then so be it.
They say history is written by the victors. And one thing that out of all of this that I've taken away is I need to question everything in the entire history we've been taught, because you can see how easily something is spun. Take for an example the insurrection, right? Just the use of even that word, and they've been labeled as treacherous and treasonous and should be hung, yet cities were burning not that long ago, and they were peaceful protests. So when all is said and done and we look back at history, I'm sure the left gets to write the narrative for what just transpired. And as you said, Trump's not going to be seen in a great light.
You know, Stephen, one interesting thing is this, and tomorrow is the inauguration. Tomorrow we get Joe Biden for president, and as we sit on the eve of the transition of power, perhaps the most interesting thing about this is nothing will change of substance. Nothing will change. What we have is this airplane wobbling through the sky, the United States of America, and one wing is wobbly, the other wing is wobbly, and the people inside the plane, when they're on the right, they're like, oh my God, look at the left, they're communists, they're socialists, they're racist. And the people on the right are going, oh my God, or the people on the left are going, oh my God, look at the right wing, they're Nazis, they're this, they're that. And we throw these labels out, Nazi, socialist, racist, misogynist, so that we never have to look at the airplane and the engine that is sick unto death. America, the engine, the oligarchy. We are not a democracy that loves our people, that wants universal single-payer health care, that wants the middle class to come. We exist to pump up the military-industrial complex, to pump up the elite on Wall Street, to pump up Israel and all of Israel's priorities. And no matter who is president, Trump, Reagan, Biden, Clinton, Bush, everybody does the same thing. They pump up the oligarchs, they pump up the wealthy, they pump up Israel, they pump up the military. We bomb other countries. We destroy other countries in the name of American exceptionalism. Like we are so great that we can export our sick democracy to other countries and bomb them into submission. That's what we say, but really we're doing it for oil, to prop up the petrodollar, to keep our hegemony going. We are sick unto death, and we use these little sideshows of Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals. All of that, even the riots on both sides, they're sideshows so that the sick America can continue pumping up oligarchs, bombing other countries, and enriching the corporations.
You're absolutely right, Nancy. And so I believe that there are a few things that need to be done to level the playing field or straighten out some of this corruption. I think we need to start with taking some of the money out of politics, right? Because at the end of the day, lobbyists are just legal bribery, right? And then we need to institute some term limits. You can't have these constant career politics. Yep.
I just want to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is brilliant. Those two things that you, Stephen Hafawi, identified as what can we do, what pragmatic changes can be made. You, Stephen Hafawi, hit it on the head. Congress is a whorehouse, bought and sold by the corporate lobbyists who line the pockets of these corporate politicians with money. It is nothing but and the term limits keep going. Brilliant.
I've got a couple more for
you.
So the other one,
those two were brilliant.
So the other one I believe that needs to happen, what's come out of this election, is the confidence back of the election itself. And so what I mean by that is I think, there needs to be a national consensus, and I think it needs to come from the Supreme Court, of what is a legal vote and how should it be counted. And it can't be left to the local legislators to decide whatever they feel like it at that time is a legal vote and how it should be counted. I think the pandemic allowed it to be skewed and heavily in one favor. So I think that's another thing that needs to be brought back, and that's obviously I would say confidence in the election. The only way that's going to happen is, I think, if it's a level playing field across all states. And then lastly, I think and the other thing that needs to happen is and I think you touched on this, Nancy, is to give some of the power back to the people when it comes to decisions that are made in terms of foreign wars, regime change wars, the military-industrial complex, the millions of dollars of aid given to foreign countries so they can bomb Say, look at Yemen. Look what's happening there. It's disgraceful. So I think there needs to be some further checks and balances put in place that stops the military-industrial complex and the politicians in Washington to continue these wars across foreign countries.
Stephen and I, to everyone in the audience, we did not discuss this beforehand, but if we just started out with the Hafawi plan, the four-corner Hafawi plan, it would, one, take the money out of politics. It is against the law to lobby and line the pockets of politicians for votes, against the law. 2, term limits. You can't sit your butt in Congress like Mitch McConnell, enriching yourself, ingratiating yourself just to further the oligarchs' wealth. You can't do that anymore. On the voting machines, it is absurd that we had this Dominion voting machine that even Canada, where it originated, said, we don't use that machine. If you're going to, well, you shouldn't even use a machine. That Dominion voting machine was not a closed loop. People are alleging that it was connected to the internet. It could have run through Frankfurt, through Italy. You need to, if you are going to have any type of confidence in the election, you have to have ballots that are counted, hand counted at the precinct, so that the vote is registered at the precinct, not willy-nilly put into a machine that literally any genius in India, Ukraine, anywhere, China, could hack into. You have to have a secure ballot, and the only way to have that is paper ballots that are voted at the precinct. And the last one is these insane, endless wars have got to stop. Our horrendous killing of thousands, tens of thousands, displacing, maiming, orphaning millions of humans in the name of American exceptionalism has got to stop. If we started there,
Agreed.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, completely agreed, Nancy. As always, it's a pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming on the podcast again, Nancy. I look forward to the next one.
Loved it.
Love you, Nancy.